The cargo ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was an old ship, not pretty to look at, but it worked well. The 7 crew members inside were finishing their dinner when the alarm started screaming. Park dropped his spoon and ran to the engine room. He was 34 years old, not too tall, with tired eyes and rough hands from years of fixing machines. He was the senior engineer on this ship, and right now, his engines were telling him something was very wrong. "What's happening?" shouted Captain Bora through the speaker system. Checked his screens, his blood went cold. "Captain, we have 5 ships coming out of hyperspace. Big ones, they're not human." There was just a cargo ship. It carried food and medicine to outer colonies. It had no weapons. It had no armor. It was like a mouse standing in front of 5 hungry cats. The alien ships surrounded them in seconds. They were long and sharp, colored in dark purple and silver. Had never seen ships like these before. He had heard stories about the Dominion, an empire that controlled hundreds of star systems far from Earth's territory. The stories said they were proud, powerful, and believed all other species were beneath them. Now those stories were right in front of him. "Human vessel," a cold voice came through the communication system. "You will shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will die." Captain Bora looked at her crew. There was nothing they could do. She gave the order to surrender. Stood in the engine room, his heart beating fast. He thought about his family back on Earth, his mother who called him every week, his younger sister who just had a baby. He wondered if he would ever see them again. The soldiers came through the airlock like a wave of darkness. They were tall, almost 2 meters, with gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on their faces. They wore black armor and carried weapons that glowed with blue light. They moved with perfect discipline, never speaking, only gesturing with their long fingers. The crew of the was pushed into the main corridor, counted the soldiers, 20 of them for 7 humans. They were not taking any chances. An officer walked forward. He was different from the soldiers. His armor had golden marks on it, and he carried no weapon. He looked at the humans the way a person might look at insects. "Which one is the commander?" he asked. His voice was like ice. Captain Bora stepped forward. "I am the captain of this vessel. We are a civilian cargo ship. We carry no military secrets. We are not soldiers." The officer studied her for a long moment. Then he looked at a device in his hand. He moved down the line of humans, stopping in front of each one. When he reached, he stopped longer than before. "This one," the officer said. "He has the highest rank after the captain. He is the senior engineer." Felt a soldier grab his arm. "Wait," he said. "I just fix engines. I don't know anything important." The officer came close to his face. His 4 eyes were completely black, like looking into empty space. "Every citizen knows secrets. Every person has value for interrogation. Your captain is female and therefore likely protected by your species' strange customs. You will come with us." Wanted to laugh. They had done their research on humans, but they had understood nothing. Still, he kept his mouth shut. There was no point in arguing with someone who had 20 soldiers and big guns. They took him away from his crew. Captain Bora shouted something, but a soldier pushed her back. Looked over his shoulder one last time. His looked scared. He tried to give them a brave smile, but he wasn't sure it worked. The shuttle was cold and uncomfortable. Sat on a metal bench with his hands tied behind his back. 2 soldiers watched him the entire time. They never blinked. He wasn't even sure if they could blink with those 4 eyes. The shuttle docked with the largest ship, was pulled through long corridors that all looked the same. Purple lights, metal walls, the smell of something chemical in the air. Finally, they brought him to a room. It was white, completely white. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. There was one chair in the middle of the room made of the same white material, nothing else. No windows, no decorations, just white. They pushed into the chair. Metal bands came out and locked around his wrists and ankles. Then the soldiers left without saying a word. Sat alone in the White Room. He didn't know how much time passed. Minutes, hours, the light never changed. The temperature never changed. It was like being inside a box of nothing. He thought about what he knew about interrogation. Not much. He was an engineer, not a spy. He fixed broken machines and complained about his back pain. He watched too many drama shows and ate too much instant noodles. He was nobody special. But the thought he had secrets. They thought every human carried important information in their heads. They were going to be very disappointed. The door opened. A new walked in. This one was different from the soldiers and the officer on the ship. He wore simple gray clothes and moved with calm confidence. His 4 eyes studied like he was a puzzle to solve. "I am Commander Talik," they said. "I am the chief interrogator of this vessel. You will tell me everything about Earth's military, fleet positions, weapon systems, defense codes, everything." Looked at him, then he laughed. He couldn't help it. The situation was so absurd. "I'm sorry," said, "but I'm an engineer on a cargo ship. I know how to fix a broken water recycler. I know how to restart a fusion engine. I do not know any military codes. I have never even met anyone in the military." Talik's expression did not change. "All humans lie. This is known. We will find the truth." He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "This process will be unpleasant for you. I suggest you cooperate quickly." Sighed and leaned back in the chair as much as the restraints allowed. His body was tired, but his mind was strangely calm. If they wanted military secrets, they had grabbed the wrong person. "I hope you have coffee," called out. "This is going to take a while." Talik paused. He did not understand the reference, but something about the human's tone made him feel uncomfortable. He pushed the feeling away and left the room. The interrogation would begin tomorrow. He was certain it would take less than a day to break this simple human. He was wrong. The White Room had no clock, had no way to know if it was day or night, morning or evening. The light stayed the same bright white color all the time. The temperature never changed. The silence was complete. This was the first part of the interrogation. Understood that much. They wanted to confuse him. They wanted to make him lose track of time. They wanted the silence to drive him crazy. After what felt like many hours, Commander Talik returned. He brought a small device and a chair for himself. He sat down across from with the calm patience of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. "Let us begin," Talik said. "Tell me about Earth's defensive fleet. How many ships? Where are they stationed?" Shook his head. "I don't know. I told you I'm a cargo engineer. I fix things. I don't have access to military information. Civilian ships don't get those details." Talik made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Impossible. In the Dominion, every citizen knows the positions of our fleets. It is a sign of loyalty, a sign of trust. You expect me to believe your government does not trust its own people?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," said. "Military stuff is classified, secret. Regular people like me never see it. I couldn't tell you military secrets even if I wanted to." Talik studied him for a long moment, then he pressed a button on his device. "We shall see. The first session begins now." The lights in the room changed. They became brighter, then dimmer, then bright again. The pattern was random and harsh. Closed his eyes, but the light came through his eyelids anyway. At the same time, a high-pitched sound started playing. It wasn't loud enough to hurt, but it was impossible to ignore. This went on for hours. The lights kept flashing. The sound kept ringing. Couldn't sleep. He couldn't rest. He couldn't think clearly. But he had experienced worse. 3 years ago, had worked on a mining ship near Jupiter's moons. A reactor had started failing. For 5 days, he had worked without sleep, fixing one problem after another while the alarm system screamed constantly. 5 days of flashing warning lights and emergency sounds. By the end, he had saved the ship and then slept for 20 hours straight. Compared to that, this was annoying but not unbearable. After what guessed was 3 days, Commander Talek returned. The looked confident, even pleased with himself. "You have not slept for 72 of your Earth hours," Talek said. "Your brain function should be significantly damaged by now. You should be ready to tell the truth." Looked at him with tired eyes, but his mind was still working. 72 hours, that's it. He let out a weak laugh. "I've done worse. I once stayed awake for 5 days during a reactor crisis. You call this sleep deprivation. I call this a Tuesday." Talek's 4 eyes widened slightly. This was the first time had seen him show any emotion. The looked at his device, checking the readings. "That cannot be correct," Talek muttered. "Our species experiences severe mental breakdown after 20 hours without sleep. Your readings show exhaustion but no breakdown. Your brain is still functioning." "Sorry to disappoint you," said. "Humans are stubborn. We don't break that easy." Talek stood up quickly. He walked around the room, clearly thinking hard. This was not going according to his plan. Every other species he had interrogated fell apart after 2 days of sleep deprivation. The humans were supposed to be weak. All the reports said they were a young species, new to space travel, easy to control. But this human was still talking, still making jokes, still resisting. "Perhaps you are special," Talek said. "Perhaps you have military training after all." Shook his head. "I'm not special. I'm completely ordinary. I have a bad knee from a football injury in school. I eat too much fried chicken. I can't even do 10 push-ups anymore. There is nothing special about me." "Then why won't you break?" Thought about the question. How could he explain what it meant to be human? How could he describe the millions of years of evolution that had shaped his species? Humans had survived ice ages and heat waves. They had survived diseases that killed millions. They had survived wars and famines and natural disasters. Every human alive today was the descendant of survivors. "My grandmother lived through a war," said quietly. "When she was a child, her city was destroyed. She lost her home, her family, everything, but she survived. She rebuilt her life. She had children and she told me stories about those days. She never complained. She just kept going." Talek listened but did not understand. In his culture, such suffering would break a person forever. "What is your point?" "My point is that humans don't give up. It's not because we're strong. It's because we're too stubborn to know when to quit. You can keep me awake for a week. You can play your lights and sounds. It won't matter. I will still be here, annoying you with my bad jokes." Talek felt something strange, an emotion he had not felt in many years of doing this work. Uncertainty. The human was clearly exhausted. His body was weak, but something in his eyes was still burning. The commander left the room and went to his private quarters. He needed to think. He needed to plan a new approach. In his quarters, Talek found Sub-Commander waiting for him. She was younger than Talek, with lighter gray skin and sharper features. She had been watching the interrogation through the security cameras. "The human is more resistant than expected," said. "What do you recommend?" Talek sat down heavily. "I do not know yet. His biology is strange. Our psychological techniques are not working properly. We may need to escalate to physical methods." Hesitated. "Commander, I have been reading the files on humans. They are concerning." "Concerning how?" "Their history. They have been fighting wars against each other for their entire existence as a species. They survived multiple extinction events. They have a saying, 'What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.' I think they actually believe this." Talek waved his hand. "Primitive nonsense. Every species has encouraging sayings. It means nothing." "Perhaps," said. "But Commander, there is something else. Their bodies produce chemicals when they are hurt or scared. These chemicals reduce pain and increase focus. Their bodies are designed for survival in ways ours are not." Talek considered this information. "Then we must find their limit. Every creature has a breaking point. We will find his." Nodded and left, but she felt doubt in her heart. She had watched the human in that white room. He had been alone, uncomfortable, exhausted, but he had not cried, he had not begged. At one point he had started humming a song to himself. What kind of creature sang when they were being tortured? Back in the White Room, continued to wait. He was more tired than he had ever been in his life, but he would not give up. Not because he was brave, not because he was strong, but because giving up was simply not something he knew how to do. His grandmother's voice echoed in his memory. No matter how hard life gets, you wake up the next day and keep walking. That's what our family does. That's what humans do. Closed his eyes and waited for whatever came next. He had a feeling things were about to get worse. He was right. Commander Talek stood in the observation room above the White Chamber. Beside him was Physician, the chief medical officer of the ship. She was small with pale gray skin and gentle movements. Her job was to make sure prisoners stayed alive during interrogation. Dead prisoners could not give information. "We are moving to physical methods," Talek said. "Monitor his vital signs closely. I want to know exactly how much the human can take." Nodded and prepared her equipment. She had done this many times before with many different species. Each one had their limits. Each one broke eventually. She expected the human would be no different. They were both wrong. The first test was temperature. The room could be made extremely cold or extremely hot. Talek chose cold first. The temperature dropped quickly until the air itself felt like ice. Frost began forming on the walls. I would have fallen unconscious within minutes in such cold. Felt the cold hit him like a wave. His thin clothes offered no protection. His body began shaking immediately. The cold was painful, entering his bones and making his joints ache. But then something happened that made drop her data pad in shock. Started doing push-ups. His arms were shaking. His body was weak from days without sleep. But he forced himself up and down, up and down. The movement generated heat. His blood started flowing faster. After 50 push-ups, he stopped and looked directly at the observation window. He could not see through the glass, but he knew they were watching. He gave them a wink and a tired smile. "What is he doing?" Talek demanded. Checked her readings with trembling hands. "He is generating body heat through physical activity. His internal temperature dropped at first, but now it is stabilizing. His body is adapting to the cold." "That's impossible." "Commander, look at this," showed him the screen. "His body is producing large amounts of a chemical called adrenaline. It is increasing his heart rate, his blood flow, his awareness. And there's something else. His skin has small bumps appearing." "What are those?" "According to the human medical files, they are called goosebumps. It is a leftover response from when humans had more body hair. The bumps try to raise fur that no longer exists to trap warm air." His voice was quiet with amazement. "Commander, his body is fighting back automatically. He does not even have to think about it." Talek felt his confidence shaking. He ordered the room to be heated instead. Perhaps heat would work better. The temperature climbed rapidly. The room became hot and then hotter. It would overheat and die within an hour at this temperature. Sat down and waited. Yes, it was hot, uncomfortable, but his body had another trick. He started sweating. In the observation room made a sound of disgust. "Commander, there is water coming out of his skin, from everywhere." "Water, why?" "It is a cooling system. The water absorbs heat from his body and carries it away as it evaporates. His species evolved this ability because they used to hunt by chasing animals for hours and hours under a hot sun. They would run until their prey died from exhaustion and overheating. The humans just kept running and sweating." Talek felt sick. The image was disturbing. A creature that could chase its prey for hours without stopping, never tiring, never overheating, just following and following until the prey collapsed. What kind of monster evolved like that? "They are persistence predators," continued, reading from her files. "One of the few in the galaxy. Their bodies are not fast or strong compared to other Earth animals, but they can keep going longer than anything else. They simply do not stop. The heat test was ended, wiped the sweat from his face and waited for the next challenge. They tried pain stimulation. Small devices sent electrical signals to his nerves, causing sharp pain without physical damage. Gritted his teeth and endured. His body produced more chemicals, natural painkillers that reduced the suffering. They tried pressure on his body, squeezing him in ways that would crack bones. Grunted and groaned, but his flexible skeleton bent instead of breaking. After each test reported the same thing. The human was hurt, the human was suffering, but the human was not breaking. "Commander," said after many hours of failed attempts, "I must tell you something important." "What?" I looked deeper into human history and biology. There are things we did not understand before. She took a deep breath. Humans bond with predators for fun. They took wolves, one of the most dangerous hunters on their planet, and turned them into pets. They call them dogs. They let these predators live in their homes. They sleep beside them. Talik said nothing. He felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. "Also," continued, "humans regularly consume poison for pleasure. They drink alcohol, which damages their cells. They eat capsaicin, a chemical that plants develop specifically to cause pain and stop animals from eating them. Humans eat it and say the food is delicious. They seek out pain and call it flavor." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand what we are dealing with." Looked at the human in the white room. Was sitting quietly, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He looked almost peaceful. "This species is not normal, Commander. They evolved on a planet that was constantly trying to kill them. Everything about them is designed for survival. We are not breaking him because he cannot be broken, not by these methods." Talik was silent for a long time. Then he spoke quietly. "Bring the neural probe." His face went pale. "Commander, the neural probe is our most extreme measure. It induces pure psychological terror. Species have died from heart failure during its use. If physical methods do not work, we will attack his mind directly. Every creature fears something. We will find his fear and use it against him." Wanted to argue, but she could not disobey a direct order. She went to prepare the neural probe while Talik watched the human through the glass. Seemed to sense something was changing. He opened his eyes and looked at the observation window again. This time, he did not smile. "Whatever you're planning," he said to the empty room, knowing they could hear him, "I'm still not going to tell you military secrets, because I still don't know any. But I guess you won't believe me until you try everything." He leaned back and closed his eyes again. "All right, let's see what you've got." Sub-Commander watched from another room. She had been assigned to monitor the prisoner, but she found herself doing more than that. She found herself admiring him, not his strength or his endurance, but his spirit. He was scared. She could see it in his vital signs, but he refused to let the fear control him. She began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. She began to wonder what would happen when other humans came looking for their lost ship. She began to feel afraid. The neural probe looked simple. It was just a small metal band that wrapped around the head. But inside that band was technology that they considered their greatest achievement in interrogation. It connected directly to the brain and found the deepest fears hidden inside. Then it made those fears feel completely real. Prisoners who experienced the neural probe usually broke within minutes. Some went insane. Some died from the shock. It was a weapon of last resort, used only when all other methods failed. Watched as physician placed the band around his head. Her hands were gentle, almost apologetic. He could see something in her 4 eyes that looked like pity. "This will be unpleasant," she said quietly. "I am sorry." Nodded. "Just doing your job, I understand." His calm response seemed to disturb her more than anger would have. She stepped back and joined Commander Talik at the control panel. Activate the probe, Talik ordered. The machine hummed to life, felt a strange tingling in his skull as the device searched through his mind looking for his deepest fears. Then it found them. Suddenly was not in the white room anymore. He was underwater in complete darkness, unable to breathe. His lungs burned. He could not find the surface. He was drowning, dying, alone in the black water. Then he was falling from a great height, the ground rushing up to meet him. The wind screamed past his ears. His stomach twisted with terror. Then he was watching his mother die in a hospital bed. Then his sister. Then everyone he ever loved, dying one by one while he could do nothing to save them. The fears kept coming, one after another, each one more terrible than the last. The neural probe dug deeper and deeper into his mind, finding every nightmare, every secret terror, and making them all feel completely real. In the observation room, watched the readings with growing shock. The human's stress levels were extremely high. His heart was racing. His brain was flooded with fear chemicals. Any other species would have been screaming, begging, or already dead. But the human was doing something strange. His heart rate was high, but it was stabilizing. His brain was producing massive amounts of adrenaline, but it was also producing something else. Dopamine, endorphins, the same chemicals that humans produce during exercise, during excitement, during moments of extreme joy. What is happening? Talik demanded. Why isn't he breaking? Check the data again and again. Commander, I do not understand this. His brain is treating the fear stimulus as a challenge. It is producing reward chemicals along with the fear chemicals. His mind is fighting back. That's impossible. Commander, look at him. They both looked through the observation window. His face was covered in sweat. His body was shaking. But he was not screaming. His jaw was tight with effort and his eyes were squeezed shut. He looked like someone running a very difficult race, not someone being tortured. Then the neural probe made a strange sound. A warning light appeared on the control panel. Rushed to check it. The probe is overloading, she said. His brain is producing too many chemicals. The feedback loop is overwhelming the system. Commander, we need to shut it down before. The neural probe sparked and went dead. Smoke rose from the device on his head, quickly removed it and checked his vital signs. The human was breathing hard, his body trembling with aftershocks, but he was alive, and he was conscious. Opened his eyes slowly. The white room came back into focus. The nightmares faded. He took several deep breaths, trying to calm his racing heart. Then he looked at the observation window and spoke with a shaky voice. That actually woke me up a bit. Got anything stronger? Talik stared at the broken neural probe in disbelief. This device had broken hardened soldiers, trained spies, leaders of resistance movements. And this ordinary human, this engineer who fixed cargo ships, had destroyed it with his brain chemistry. Leave us, Talik said too. His voice was hollow. After she left, Talik sat alone in the observation room for a long time. He had been an interrogator for 40 years. He had never failed to break a prisoner. His record was perfect, his methods legendary among the intelligence services. And now a random human had made him question everything he thought he knew. That night, Sub-Commander made a decision. She waited until Talik was asleep, then went to the white room alone. The door opened at her command and she stepped inside. Looked up at her with tired, bloodshot eyes, but there was no hatred in them, just curiosity. Come to try something new? He asked. Shook her head. She sat down on the floor across from him, keeping some distance between them. I came to talk, just talk. That's a nice change. Shifted in his chair, trying to get comfortable. What do you want to talk about? I want to understand, said. How do you do it? How do you keep going? We have used every technique we know. Any other species would have broken completely by now. Why haven't you? Thought about the question. It was a fair one. He was exhausted beyond anything he had ever experienced. His body hurt everywhere. His mind felt stretched thin, but somewhere deep inside there was still a spark that refused to go out. "Let me tell you about my people," he said slowly. "We come from a small country called Korea. In our history, we were invaded many times by bigger, stronger neighbors. We were occupied, oppressed, nearly destroyed again and again. But we always got back up. We rebuilt. We kept our culture, our language, our identity. My grandmother used to tell me that Korean people are like grass. You can step on us, burn us, cut us down to nothing, but we always grow back." Listened carefully. This was not what she expected. "That's what humans are," continued. "We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest, but we don't quit. We can't quit. It's not in our nature. You can hurt us, scare us, push us to the edge of death. But as long as we're breathing, we'll keep fighting. That's just who we are." Felt something change inside her. For the first time, she truly understood what they had captured. Not a prisoner, not a source of information. They had captured a warning of what humanity was capable of. "The believe we are the superior species in this region of space," said quietly. "We believe other races are primitive, weak, meant to serve us or be conquered." "How's that working out for you?" asked with a slight smile. Did not answer. Instead, she stood up and walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned back. "Your people will come looking for you, won't they?" "Yes," said simply, "they will." "What will they do when they find you?" Smile faded. His eyes became serious. "Honestly, I hope they'll be peaceful about it. Humans prefer talking to fighting. But if your dominion hurts my crew, if they refuse to negotiate," he paused, "then your leaders will learn why the most dangerous animal on Earth evolved to be a social creature. Alone, one human is just a person. Together, we're something else entirely." Left the room without another word. She went to her quarters and began preparing a report. A secret report that she would not share with Commander Talik or High Overseer. A report that would recommend immediate release of the humans and a diplomatic apology. She knew they would not listen, but she had to try. That night, the long-range sensors detected something on the edge of the star system. Ships, many ships, coming fast. Human ships. Looked at the sensor data and felt true fear for the first time in her life. The rescue fleet was coming, and the Dominion was not ready for what was about to happen. The United Earth Response Fleet dropped out of hyperspace like thunder breaking through silence. 47 ships appeared where there had been nothing. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels spread across the darkness of space in a formation that spoke of only one purpose: war. High Overseer stood on the bridge of the flagship and watched the human fleet arrive. He was old, even by standards, with dark gray skin and scars from ancient battles. He had commanded fleets for over 60 years. He had never lost. "They send 47 ships for one cargo vessel," he said with contempt. "Humans are sentimental fools." "Overseer," an officer called out. "We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Let me hear it." A human voice filled the bridge. It was calm and professional, but there was steel underneath the calm. "Vessels, this is Admiral of the United Earth Navy. You have captured a civilian ship and its crew. You have 14 minutes to release them unharmed and withdraw from this system. This is not a negotiation." Laughed. "They think they can threaten us. We are the Dominion. We have conquered 100 worlds. Respond to them. Tell them to leave or be destroyed." Commander Talik was also on the bridge, standing in the shadows. He said nothing, but his mind was troubled. He had spent 2 weeks trying to break one ordinary, unremarkable human, and he had failed completely. Now there were thousands of humans coming, and many of them were actual soldiers. Sub-Commander stood beside Talik. She had tried to warn them. She had filed reports about human resilience, about their dangerous biology, about the risks of this conflict. Nobody had listened. Now it was too late. The 14 minutes passed. Did not release the prisoners. He was too proud to surrender to what he saw as a lesser species. The human fleet attacked. The battle was not long. They expected humans to fight like other species, with careful tactics and slow advances. Instead, the humans attacked with terrifying aggression. Their ships moved in patterns that seemed chaotic but were perfectly coordinated. They took risks that they would never consider. 3 ships were destroyed in the first minute, then 5 more. The human fighters swarmed like angry insects, fast and deadly. The larger human ships hit hard and retreated before they could respond. "This is impossible," shouted as another explosion shook his flagship. "How are they fighting like this?" Talik finally spoke. "They are persistence predators, Overseer. They never stop, they never hesitate, they attack until the prey falls." "I did not ask for your opinion." Another explosion. The lights flickered. A report came in that human Marines had breached the hull and were fighting their way through the lower decks. Made her decision. While everyone was distracted by the battle, she slipped away from the bridge and ran toward the detention level. She had to reach the human before it was too late. The ship was in chaos. Soldiers ran through the corridors, some going to fight, others trying to escape. Emergency alarms screamed. The smell of smoke and burning metal filled the air. Reached the white room and opened the door. Was still in his chair, but he had somehow managed to free one of his hands. He was working on the other restraints when she entered. "We need to go," said. "Your people are here. I can get you to the shuttle bay." Looked at her with surprise. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you were right about everything." She helped him free his other hand and feet. "They made a mistake capturing you, a bigger mistake trying to break you. I do not want to make another mistake by letting you die." They moved through the corridors together, knew the ship well, and guided them around the heaviest fighting. They passed soldiers who were too focused on the human Marines to notice them. Near the shuttle bay, they encountered Commander Talik. He stood in the middle of the corridor, blocking their path. He looked different from the calm, confident interrogator had first met. His clothes were torn. His 4 eyes were wide and wild. He held a weapon pointed directly at them. "You," Talik said you did this. You brought this destruction. You should have just told me what I wanted to know." Stepped forward slowly, putting himself between Talik and, "I told you the truth from the beginning. I don't know any military secrets. I'm just an engineer." "Lies? Everything you said was lies." "No." His voice was gentle but firm. "The only lie was the one you told yourself. You believed humans were weak because you wanted to believe it. You thought you could break me because you needed to believe you were superior. But I'm not special, Talik. I'm ordinary. I'm average. Any human you grabbed would have done the same thing." Talik's weapon shook in his hands. "That cannot be true." "It is true, and that's what you really can't accept. You didn't capture a hero or a soldier or a spy. You captured a guy who fixes engines and misses his mom's cooking. And you still couldn't break me, because that's what humans are. We're all like this. Every single one of us." The weapon fell from Talik's hands. He sank to his knees, his 4 eyes empty and defeated. Had done something to him that 2 weeks of torture had failed to do to the human. He had broken the interrogator's spirit with nothing but words. "Grab's arm. We need to keep moving." They left Talik kneeling in the corridor and continued to the shuttle bay. Before they could reach it, human Marines found them. They came around a corner with weapons raised, ready for a fight. The leader was a woman with short black hair and hard eyes. Her armor was scratched and burned from combat. She saw, and her expression changed to surprise. "Engineer Park?" she asked. "That's me." "I'm Lieutenant Commander. We're here to bring you home." Her eyes moved to, "Who's this?" "She's with me," said firmly. "She helped me escape. She's defecting." Studied for a moment, then nodded. "Fine, we'll sort it out later. Can you walk?" Looked down at himself. He was thin and weak, covered in the marks of 2 weeks of torture. His body was exhausted beyond anything he had ever felt, but he was alive. He was free. "Yeah," he said, "I can walk." They made their way to a human shuttle. As they flew away from the damaged flagship, looked out the window. The battle was ending. Several ships had been destroyed. Flagship had been disabled and captured. The rest of the fleet was retreating at full speed. "Did anyone from the survive?" asked. Smiled, all of them. "They were being held on a different ship. We got them out first. Your captain specifically told us not to leave without you." Closed his eyes and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for 2 weeks. His crew was safe. He was free. It was over. 3 days later was in a medical bay on a space station, finally getting proper rest. His body was healing. The doctors said he would make a full recovery with time. Had been given a private room nearby. She was cooperating fully, providing information about the Dominion that would help prevent future conflicts. In exchange, she would be allowed to stay in human space. She had no desire to return to her own people. News of what happened spread quickly. The story of the cargo engineer who survived 2 weeks of interrogation became famous. People called him a hero, thought they were being ridiculous. On the last day before he was released from the medical bay, a diplomatic ship arrived at the station. They wanted to negotiate peace terms. The Dominion had been badly shaken by their defeat and by the stories of human resilience that were now spreading through their territory. One of the diplomats saw through a window as he was being escorted to the meeting room. The diplomat stopped and stared. "That is the one," the diplomat asked a nearby human officer. "The engineer who would not break. He seems so ordinary." Admiral happened to be walking past. She heard the question and stopped. "He is ordinary," she said. "That's exactly the point. Every human you meet is like him. Every single one. Remember that the next time your Dominion thinks about testing us." The diplomat said nothing. He hurried to the meeting room with fear in all four of his eyes. That night finally slept in a real bed for the first time in weeks. He dreamed of home, a small apartment inn, the sound of waves, his mother's voice calling him for dinner, the smell of the sea. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Do not capture humans. Do not torture humans. Do not underestimate humans, because the ordinary ones are the most dangerous of all. And somewhere in the stars, they began telling stories of their own. Stories of the species that could not be broken. Stories of the persistent predators who chased their prey across continents and would not stop. Stories of humans, the most terrifying ordinary creatures in the universe. Slept peacefully, unaware that he had become a legend. He would have laughed if he knew. He was just a guy who fixed engines, nothing special at all. That was the point. That was always the point.